Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Demonstrators have clashed with security forces in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, with protesters angry that several opposition strongholds have been left out of Sunday's polls. Voting has been postponed in 3 cities until March. Authorities are blaming insecurity and concerns over Ebola, but the opposition accuses the authorities of trying to rig the ballot. Let's cross over now to our reporter Salim Kikeke, who is in Kinshasa for us. Salim, what's the latest?
Hi, Peter. Yes, just 2 days to go before the long-awaited elections here in the DRC. And, of course, lots of controversies surrounding the elections itself. One major controversy being the postponing of elections. Initially, elections being put forward for a week. And only yesterday, the Electoral Commission came out and said that it has postponed elections in 4 constituencies, 3 in the east and 1 in the west. Now, President Joseph Kabila, who himself is not running for office, had promised what he called a perfect election. Now, earlier today, I caught up with him and asked him what's going wrong with his plan for a perfect election.
The idea was that Ebola is an epidemic which we manage or have been managing to control 2 months after it was declared. This time around, it has taken much longer than that. And as we speak right now, it's still spreading. So we have to contend with those 2 major issues. And of course, the choice is to save as many lives as possible.
With all that has happened, do you still have faith in the Electoral Commission to deliver a free and fair election?
The Electoral Commission is an independent commission, an independent Electoral Commission. And we still have faith in the Commission. And come end of this year, meaning the 30th, elections will be organized.
But with 1.2 million voters being delayed in those areas we just mentioned, how are we going to declare a new president with some of the places that haven't voted?
Don't worry, the law has catered for such issues. So the Electoral Commission has, as far as I'm concerned, been doing everything according to the book. I don't think that there will be any major issues in as far as the 1-point-something million voters that you're talking about.
Joseph Kabila, the outgoing president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, speaking to me earlier. Now, in Beni, one of the cities that the elections have been postponed till March next year, there have been protests. People took to the streets, burning tires and blocking roads. And in the city of Goma, there are reports that protesters attacked an Ebola center in the city of Goma. Our reporter, Gaius Kowene, has more.
The decision by the Electoral Commission to postpone elections in the towns of Beni, Butembo and Yumbi sparked protests in 3 towns in eastern DRC. In the town of Goma, where we are, protesters took to the streets of Majengo, where they laid stones into the middle of streets and blocked circulation until police came, shot tear gas and then cleared the way out. In the town of Butembo, protesters I talked to on the phone say that they burned tires into the middle of the streets to express their anger. Now, in the town of Beni, protesters attacked an Ebola transit center where some people left and fled. The Ministry of Health issued a statement saying those who were there were not necessarily contaminated by Ebola virus, but they were under surveillance.
Gaius Kowene, they're reporting in Goma. Now, here in the DRC, over 60% of the population live in the rural areas. They live in the rural. Many have doubts that the new man, the new president, will try and sort out, will actually improve their lives. Louis DeVost reports from the region, from Equatorial Province.
Simba! These young men are transporting electoral material to remote villages so that people there can vote. The Electoral Commission faces a daunting task, equipping 75,000 polling stations in this vast country. They are already a week late. In Equator Province, the only road across the rainforest between the main city of Bandaka and surrounding villages is waterlogged. People struggle to navigate the terrain. Some go by foot, others by bicycle. After a 15 kilometers journey, we arrive at a polling station in the village of Jombo on the day that was meant to be voting day. There is no electoral material in sight, no voting booths and no ballot boxes.
We hear on the grapevine that the election material will arrive in the polling centres, but nothing's arrived yet.
The villagers are at best confused by the disorderly situation. At worst, and if elections do take place, many think the vote could be rigged. Joseph Alonjea is a pineapple farmer. He says in Jombo, everyone has to fend for themselves.
Here, life is difficult. We don't have access to hospitals, we don't have access to roads, there's no medicine and no one has any money.
He feels abandoned, but still he wants to vote.
It's our right to vote. If we don't vote, this country won't work properly. We will begin to suffer again.
Joseph and his wife, Esther, have 7 children. They can only afford school for the eldest 3. In Jombo, 400 people are registered to vote, a tiny fraction of the 40 million nationwide. But this village is representative of thousands of others, from north to south, east to west, where the population wants to vote, but feel their fate is not in their hands. Louise de Wast, BBC News, Equator Province.
Now, the Lamuka opposition coalition has called on the Congolese people to reject the latest postponement, and they are calling for a general nationwide strike tomorrow.
The Lamuka coalition demands the Electoral Commission immediately withdraws this unjustifiable decision and organise elections across the whole of the Democratic Republic of Congo without any discrimination. The Congolese people, who've already been very patient, who've already accepted 3 postponements and even accepted a 2-year wait, are now saying enough. The Electoral Commission has just crossed a red line. La ligne rouge.
That's Pierre Lumbi, the spokesperson for the Lamuka opposition coalition. Well, that's the latest here in Kinshasa. Back to you, Peter.
And Salim, just before we let you go, I mean, is there still much enthusiasm, do you gather, in places like Kinshasa and the rest of the country, given that these elections will not be taking place in some major opposition strongholds?
Peter, lots of enthusiasm all over the country. And when it comes to those areas that elections have been postponed until March next year, you can understand that there's a lot of frustration and anger, whether they are voters who will vote for the ruling party or voters who will be voting for the opposition. Clearly, they've been waiting for this moment for the past 2 years, and then 7 days have been added into that, and now it's been moved to March next year. So quite understandably, people are really frustrated to practice their constitutional right.
Salim Kikeke, keeping an eye on those elections for us there. Thank you very much. We'll be having more from you later on in the week. And in the last hour, it's been reported authorities in Kinshasa have told the EU envoy to recall its envoy. That's in retaliation for sanctions against 14 people, including President Joseph Kabila. preferred successor Emmanuel Ramzani Shadari. Two news agencies are quoting the foreign minister saying the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo urges the European Council to proceed without fail in recalling the head of its mission within 48 hours.